Welcome back to the Fathers of the Future podcast. This is the first time we are recording underneath the umbrella of home quarantine. Now, we've been recording. I've been doing some live guests. I've been breaking the law. I've been getting some illegal haircuts, illegal massages, and illegal podcast interviews. This brings me back to 1998 all over again. Legalized gangster shit, as we often call it. I'm joined by my friend and my producer, if you will, in the podcast game, Tim Holloway. Welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, thank you, brother. I appreciate the opportunity and the time, brother. I appreciate it.
Yesterday was a shit show, and I sent you a couple messages saying, hey, I don't have this piece. I don't have that piece.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing. And I honestly think the last message I sent you was, I feel like an asshole from about 20 years ago because I have not missed this many appointments in my entire adult life, and things just kept happening. So those things are gone now. We are live and we're broadcasting through Zoom. And of course, we are recording for the podcast. So we're going to be able to bring another layer and another element to this thing as we'll start to put these live videos on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
So Tim, thank you for being here, brother. You
No
are
problem,
a
brother.
father of 5.
I am. Yes, absolutely. It's a crazy experience. Especially during this time of quarantine, it's been a regrounding experience for me and, focusing on the kids. We have 3 at home, 13, 14, and 15. And we've been playing a lot of games. Actually, if I were to turn this around, I have my office in the corner, but we invested in a tennis table. We got the foosball table, and next we're looking for air hockey. And we just turned this whole basement into a game room for connecting with the kids and helping with this the situation that we're experiencing.
Dude, I love it. And you're in North Idaho. What's the weather like up there?
It's usually cold. We usually have a lot of winters. We just finished our 3rd winter, and what that means is that you think it's you've entered spring, and then all of a sudden you got snow again. But we're in our rainy spell now, so we're in the rain.
So let me tell you where we're at. Just a couple miles south here in Arizona, we have 6 days in a row of 100-degree temperature starting tomorrow. And so spring is gone. We've just lost spring. And how you know is the flowers. We have wildflowers galore. The wildflowers they're gone now. There's no more color. So we go back to brown for about the next 7 to 8 months. We have 2 seasons here in Arizona. We have hot and cold, and we have winter, and we have summer.
Yeah.
There's really no fall. Sometimes we get a good spring, but hey, we're here. We love it, man.
We our summer is a little sparse. We'll never see 100. The average is probably close to 85, and it happens very small. So to say, I want to live somewhere there's 4 seasons. There's only 3 seasons here.
Yeah.
The summer just kind of gets skipped a little bit.
So we met virtually about 7, 8, 9 months ago. It was August of last year, and I was walking with a brother of mine doing some hiking, and he told me about his podcast that he had launched, and I was like, man, I need somebody. I need a system. I need turnkey. Right? I got a lot of things in the fire, and I need to be able to just produce and then upload. And your program, between you and your wife and your business, helped me launch my podcast, and now you're helping me put out another episode today. Tell me, how did you get into the game of podcasting?
It was a passion for sound. I had a natural inclination to playing a guitar and writing music. Put 3 to 4 CDs out there, collaborating with a bunch of different people. And when I entered the podcast game, it was frustrating because the sound quality was really, really low. And it was hard to listen to some people, and it was they had good things to say, but I couldn't get past the sound. And so as far as like podcasting, was this natural evolution of, I am inspired. I do have a message, but then I have this idea of it should sound good and it should be professional. And so those two things got me into the game. The message, having something to say. I never have an absence of words or topic to talk about, and then producing the quality of sound that's needed for a professional. So,
And you have your own podcast as well?
I do.
Yeah, and tell us about that.
So my podcast is it's called the God-Centered Men's Recovery, and I decided to be very polarizing. And after a lot of different trial and error, I came to the conclusion, it was like, who am I? And just getting down to the core of who I am, a man of faith. I am a man, and I'm in this recovery journey as far as overcoming addiction and trauma and abuse. And I need to start speaking from where I am and who I am. And so started a podcast, and I just labeled it exactly what I was, God-Centered Men's Recovery. And when I did that, the audience came flocking in, and there is a lot of men that are in the same tribe. And it's been a very powerful experience for me.
It's interesting because I've known you now for that long, and I didn't quite know, any of that, specifically that word trauma. And we talk about that a lot on this show, for the fact that we often are carrying multi-generational trauma, epigenetics, as it's often called, of inheriting the history of mankind. So not all trauma happened when we were 16 in the summer in a men's bathroom, or when we were 24 and we lost our mom. Trauma can often be carried with us from our childhood that we didn't even know.
Right. I totally agree with that. And I know that, I look back at my parents, and it's kind of the hurt people scenario. And they had a lot of trauma themselves. And so this generation thing of passing on belief systems, mindsets, and pain, it's very evident, and it's very real. And for me, it took really confronting the lies and deciding what I wanted to believe that kind of freed me from those experiences.
Yeah, it's really not just valuable, but it is powerful to know that we can change the code.
And
I'm not quite sure exactly how deep we'll go into the trauma, but I call it what I carried, the weight that I carried for 38 years of my life. I'm 41 now, so I'm post-traumatic syndrome free. I'm 3 years post removed from letting go of that last weight, that last rock that I literally carried. It was the absence of my father, who I've never met in my entire life. And it was the death of my mom, who I tragically found in her own home. Those two elements were like 1-ton bricks in each hand.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize it, even after I had started doing self-work and mindset and meditation. I didn't even realize, 38 years old, man, I'm carrying my boy, who you saw come in just for a minute, who's been on the podcast. I was pounding him from a young age about what I dealt with as a kid, not realizing that he doesn't need to carry that shit.
Right. There's no way around it until awareness comes and the light bulb turns on. There's no way around passing these belief systems and the mindsets that we achieved or that we were programmed with until awareness comes, until the light bulb comes on. But you talked about post-traumatic stress a little bit, and I remember being 12, 13 years old and having these anxiety experiences and sleepwalking. When I sleepwalk, I went like down the street. Like I had these weird anxiety experiences and curling up in a ball, in the bathroom and just like weeping. But nobody understood. And of course I'm a kid and I don't understand that I'm going through this post-traumatic stress, as we call it today. But there wasn't a lot of knowledge
Mm.
about it back then, and especially with children, because you can't really diagnose a child with almost anything. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Yeah.
And what about your kids? Do they have the musical ear, or a passion for sound? Do they have their own podcast?
So my daughter, Jaden, she loves the piano, and we try to get together a couple times a week and go over new songs, which is really fun to do. And then my other daughter plays the flute, and yeah, so a little bit. A
Yeah.
little bit, yeah.
Yeah. And you also work with your wife. So talk to us through that dynamic, and then I'll share my story of working with my wife.
Sure. My first thing is it's not for everybody. Like, yeah, if you want to friction, if you want conflict, if you want, growth and development, um, working together is a good thing to accomplish that. Getting on the same team, getting on the same page, serving one another. She helps in my business, and I help in hers. And so she has a furniture restoration business, and it's kind of like when I'm in her domain, I'm her employee, and when she's in my domain, she's my employee. So it's kind of a weird scenario.
And it works. And how long has it worked for? How long have you been working together? How long have you been married for?
We've been married. We've been together for 4 years. We've been married 2, and then the whole time since we've been together, we've worked together in some way or fashion, starting side businesses and stuff. So since
Yeah,
we pretty much met.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad it's working for you. It didn't work for me. The business relationship didn't work for me. The marriage did. And ultimately what happened is my wife and I are high school sweethearts. We met in 7th grade. And at the time of our second child, my business was booming. One of the first CrossFit early adopters in the entire world. We had an affiliate, CrossFit Scottsdale, in 2007. And as it started to grow, she didn't want to go back to corporate because coming from the commercial real estate side, the crash was coming if it hadn't already come right around 2008, 9, 10. So she said, hey, I'm going to stay home. I'm not going to go back to work, but your business is growing. Let me come on board. And it was phenomenal because she is, you talk about opposites attract or polarities or the way of the superior man. Like we are that exact identical pull and push.
Mm-hmm.
And what I wasn't good at, or even today, what I'm not good at, she's great at the systems and programs. Like she developed this 300-page owner's manual for our business so that we could then recreate multiple gyms. We left the CrossFit business and opened up our own side hustles called Sick Fit. And
Nice,
Sick
nice.
Fit was like pre-Orange Theory, pre-F45. And it was amazing until it wasn't. Here's the story I tell. We had 2 offices in the gym here in Scottsdale, and they were, we built them out. Everything was rigged when you're a small business owner, right? Your backdrop, my backdrop, this system, like, you learn so much about being an entrepreneur when you have no one to count on or rely on when you're building.
Mm-hmm.
And from that, like, that's how you can do everything in your business. And we were just working one late night, and we had, these 2 offices with a small hole in it. And it's like 11, 12 o'clock. Kids are at home with the nanny. She's yelling at me. We're running out of money. We're starting to get pressure from outside because the fitness boom it's a craze, right? And it happens in waves. Well, we were at the beginning of the wave and we rode it high, and then all of a sudden the wave started to come back down. There was people who were using our brand and they were opening their own gyms and they were breaking off. We were losing money, and I stuck my head through this window and I said, hey, we're either going to continue to work together or we're going to continue to live together, but it's not going to be both. And she literally, I remember, like, she, my wife and I, we're 40, so we grew up in Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. She threw me the peace sign, and said, I'm going home.
Uh,
And that was it, man. That was it. So good
so
for
funny.
you that you have a family business.
Yeah. I think the reason why that it does work because, we were both 100% in the podcast game. And then the frustration of working together and not seeing eye to eye. So she started to do her thing. And then now she helps with my thing and helps with her thing. That's the way that it works because we are both leaders and we're both stubborn, and someone's going to lead the ship. And so the breaking off of her leading her ship, me leading my ship, and being supportive in one another, it works. But if we were both in the same company trying to be leaders, it just wouldn't have worked.
Yeah. We used to call it good cop, bad cop. And I'll tell one more story about the business side of things. My wife she would be the one to come to me to say, hey, we've got to let go of somebody, or, hey, there's an issue, there's a challenge. She was constantly the bad cop until it was time for me to come in. And I never fired anybody. What I would do is go for these long walks with the employee or even a member of the gym and say, hey, what's not working for you right now in your life? And they would ultimately be like, this job or this gym or any of it. And I would be like, so then it's probably best if we go in different directions. I would actually end up being the good cop in a bad cop role. But, to this day, I don't think she's ever fired or let go of anybody, because when it would get to that point, she'd come to me and be like, hey, you got to go talk to so-and-so. And I'd be like, all right, I'll go talk to so-and-so. And even now in our parenting, there's a lot of that, right? Little good cop and bad cop. How do you guys, the 19 and the 21-year-old, they're on their own?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you got 12, 13, 14 at home. You practically have triplets.
Yeah. Yeah. All going through the same thing. I tell you what, when we were out of quarantine, we were going to one of the daughters is in dance. The other daughter's was in cooking and horseback riding at one time. And then the son was into wrestling. We would bounce from event to event, like boom, 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 boom. Like we were very, very busy and very active. But, you talk about the good cop, bad cop. I was always praised in the treatment center environment where I used to work because, I was the leader of employees. I had 12 employees and at one time 18 boys. But I was given a lot of praise because when I had to let people go, there was no backlash and they thought it was their decision, which is so weird. But, it's just, setting the expectations and asking them kind of like you did and just getting down to this conclusion and having them make the choice. That's a really powerful way to do things. But at home, same thing. I am fun. I'm playing. You might find me rollerblading with the kids. So the friendship is really high on my list. And but then I still try to step it up when I need to. But my wife is definitely the bad cop. When it comes to non-payment, I sick Jamie. I sick my wife on people.
I haven't been sicked on yet.
No,
FYI.
No. Yeah. So yeah, it works. And you talked about polar opposites. This is my second marriage. The first marriage was destroyed because of alcoholism and pornography and stuff on both of our parts. And literally those two things destroyed my marriage. I went into this marriage forsaking both of those things, and to beginning wanted to be the man that I was called to be. And I didn't pick somebody who was just like me. I mean, before it was like down to the music, down to the drugs, down to the alcohol, down to the pastimes. I mean, shows we watched, everything. And this polar opposite thing has really, really changed and transformed my marriage as far as being attracted to somebody who complements every area that I'm not strong in. And We don't agree a lot. We don't watch the same shows a lot. We don't like the same music, but yet it works. It's crazy. It works.
Yeah. That's beautiful what you said about your past marriage, and thank you. I honor you for sharing that, man. I was an alcoholic. Excuse me. I am an alcoholic. 12 years sober, and
Nice,
I
nice.
wouldn't be here
Congratulations.
today, man. Thank you, brother. I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be married. I wouldn't be present in my kid's life. I wouldn't be, the father of the future that I truly work my ass off to keep the head above water if I hadn't given up that toxic substance. I found recovery at 18 for something else, and then going back to what was legal at the time, right? Or what is legal? Alcohol, you can get it at the
Right.
grocery store, convenience store.
Yeah.
I was a slippery slope, and I spent a good decade. My first fake ID, I was 13, 14.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I had to give that up for what I wanted to change that code.
Change that code.
What was it for you? What was your final breaking
Well,
straw?
oh my goodness. So in my teenage years, I was highly addicted to meth. It's hard to look at somebody who has a life like mine and say that you were addicted to meth, but I've come a long way. But in my 30s, it was kind of like a relapse. My father OD'd from heroin, and my mother died at the same time. And the overwhelmingness, and I was in the ministry at the time. I was asked to step down because of just my overall anger and not being able to process and all the questions that I had. And so that led me to the liquor store next door, and I was just drowning that thing out. Just I'm pounding this trauma. I'm numbing it. It's dead for me every night. The bottom, which wasn't very much a bottom, as most people think, you got to lose everything. It was just overall mediocreness. I was looking at my marriage, which was mediocre. My body, definitely mediocre. I was pissing BBs and, kidney stones and all of those things. Just my connection with God was really not present. I had a lot of guilt and shame in my life. But I was functional.
How old were you when you lost your dad, when he overdosed?
I was in my late 20s. Yeah. And so yeah, I was experiencing this rawness and the awareness that my life is mediocre. And I had grand visions, of course, in my 20s and of becoming, and of course, doing something great, as we all do. And then looking in my early 30s and just being mediocre. And I soaked in it for a while and experienced what I call utter disgust. And I think it's really important for men to experience that, especially if you want to change. Disgust is a powerful motivation. And you look at this, I'm disgusted the way I'm behaving. I'm disgusted with my marriage. I'm disgusted with, every area of my life pretty much is mediocre. And I got fed up.
Consistently inconsistent.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that repeat pattern over time, wanting, wishing, how do you get out of it? How do you break through? All started, I'm going to say, for us when we got sober, when we got clear.
Yeah.
And then you add in things like family and relationships, and they stack. And then before you know it, you're the guy that people are coming to learn on how to be better, on how to relieve some of that trauma, on how to find purpose and intention, on how to be a better father. And it all starts with the first key, which is just get sober. And that sobriety for you was, I was disgusted. Oh man, that is powerful.
Yeah. And, I think when we're fed up, we don't have to hit bottom per se. I had a good job as far as, it was very fulfilling, very rewarding. And
financially?
Not financially, but like investing, and investing in youth in a treatment center environment with sexual dysfunctions. We were getting the kids, on the straight and narrow path as far as that concerns. So very fulfilling. And that's the delusion. that I'm able to operate, I'm able to function in a capacity, I'm able to hold down a job, I'm able to do this, that, and the other thing. So the delusion is that I'm okay.
Mm.
And the question I had, am I okay with being mediocre? Because I look around and I am mediocre in every single way. And am I okay with that? And the bottom line was, I'm not. And so the change began to happen to me. Unfortunately, the change did not happen in my wife. And I set down ultimatums and boundaries as far as affairs and cheatings were concerned. And the boundaries weren't set. So I had the hard thing to do, which was really difficult. Considering my personality, to walk away.
Addicted to more deep down inside. Is people often ask, what was your drug of choice or what was your addiction? And it's like more. Even today, right?
I'm addicted to some good things right now, and it's definitely more. Yeah, it's always more. Part of the podcast is we host recovery groups for men, and we have a lot of men inside of those groups. And it's always, I want to help more people. I want to get on more calls. I want to expand and help more. But it's a different sort of addiction now.
I came to a realization just about 2 years ago as I started to let go of those weights that I was carrying. I had been addicted to fitness. I was sedating through exercise and training and long distance and running away from the realities of my home. And even this last weekend, I got a taste of it. We ran for 12 hours raising money for a nonprofit. I had to come back to shit. When I'm in those moments, I don't think about all the problems that I have. So really it is an escape.
Yeah.
Like when I go to the Grand Canyon, when I, jump out of an airplane, when I swim Alcatraz, when I do things that push my boundaries, it's because I don't want to be present, which is the complete opposite of what I'm really trying to live as a father of the future, is present, active, and engaged. And there's some balance, even though that's healthy and it's good for you, it's physical. If I do too much of that, I'm sedating, I'm running away.
Yeah. I've had that reality or revelation a couple times, even last week, getting caught up in, because it's exciting as far as connecting with men, jumping on the phone, getting them, in our systems, and all of it's exciting. But there is a withdrawal also, as far as when you have all this excitement, enthusiasm, motivation, but then when it stops, then you have this little bit of a letdown. And I experienced it, and I'm sitting there, I'm like sad for no reason, thinking what's going on, and really getting the awareness to look and see what was going on. That take a step back, and then begin to practice awareness again, and look at just taking a pause.
You can get super high and then super low, and then super high and then super low. That's a big part of those of us who are born with addictive personalities or addictive DNA. Ultimately, I lost both my parents to drugs and alcohol. And even though my mom's death was not intentional, it was preventable. And ultimately the report came back that she had multiple toxic prescription medications in her system with alcohol, and she fell into a slumber in the bathtub. And my dad, MIA, missing since my birth. Still don't know legally if he's dead or alive. In my heart, he is dead. Right.
Yeah, I get that.
I start to begin thinking about like my kids, who my wife's genes and that side of the family doesn't have what my side does, but they're a mixture of that. And I can see it in pieces, whether it's addicted to food or ice cream, or addicted to, TikTok or video games. How do we stay humble? From your experience, how do we stay humble and centered when life is constantly giving us these highs and these lows? And what do you do to combat that?
So I drink my own Kool-Aid. That's what I tell the brothers. And so I am a leader, within a group of men. Um, but I'm accountable at the same time. And so these experiences that I have through the week, I drink my own Kool-Aid and I bring it to multiple different men, and I share and vulnerability and openness, and I get feedback. And so that has been a powerful thing for me. And I know vulnerability is hard. It's hard to say, because we have this false idea of leaders that they're supposed to be perfect and have it all together. And, coming and sharing with the brothers, I'm struggling this week. I feel sad for no reason. That was my my comment to the brothers. I feel sad for no reason. And then getting feedback and then actually thinking, you know what, that is the reason why. And I know, people who are addicted personalities, and, when you speak in public and you do these things, there's this mountaintop experience and then there's the low. And so just having awareness and knowing different things that are going on, having accountability, vulnerability, and awareness.
So having this live Zoom room video recording podcast, I started to think of an idea here, because I know we need to go a lot deeper. What I'd like to do with you, being the producer of the Fathers of the Future podcast, I'd like you to do a shameless self-promotion to let everybody know out there how they can begin working with you. And what I loved from the beginning, and I had interviewed one or two other guys, was the fact that you were small, you and your wife, right? And you set me up. Here's 3 options for your equipment. Here's the program and how it looks. All you got to do, baby, is shoot, record, upload, and I'll take care of the rest. So what I want to do with you is I'd like to make this a series. We come on maybe once a month together and kind of share, what's happening in your world and in your industry.
That'd be awesome, brother. And like I said, very vulnerable and open. And I receive a lot of light and revelation, and I'm open to it. And so I'm never of absence of things to say. So, but that said, as far as podcasting, we don't have time, and that's the bottom line. And time is very precious. Time is very precious to me. A lot of the people don't know this, but I outsource a lot of my work too. You know what I mean? So time is of the essence here. And, if you want to build something great, you're going to have to delegate. And the one-man show idea of, I'm going to one-man this, you could get so far. But if you want growth and expansion, you want time, you want to achieve something great, you're going to have to delegate. You're going to have to outsource to scale and to do anything great. And so that's what our business is. It gives you your time back.
So drop that. How can the listeners and viewers learn more about your program and how to start a podcast?
Yes. So if you don't mind, Luke, I'm going to go ahead and put the link inside the description there. And so I encourage you to go look at that link and look at the page and kind of see the overall plan and strategy that we have for podcasting and for your social media. And if it sounds like a fit for you, click that button and it'll take you to my calendar.
Boom. Beautiful. My brother, Tim Holloway, I thank you for being here. I thank you for helping me launch my podcast in August of last year. And we were killing it, 1 to 2 episodes a week. And we're coming out of it now post-corona. We're going to get back to it. We're going to release 1 to 2 a week for the next couple of months here to kind of get back up to point. I appreciate you, brother. I honor you. And I thank you for being here today.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
For those of you guys who have been here, we thank you. You could be anywhere in the world, but yet you chose to be here with us listening to the Fathers of the Future podcast. This movement is alive and it is real. We are working with men from all over the world on how to increase their capacity as a level 10 father, how to show up to the game of life each and every single day. If this is your first time here, we thank you. And if you are a return listener, we thank you even more. Tim, I appreciate you, brother. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Peace.
Peace.